Okay, guys, so this is going to be another constituency test. It's the fourth one. And the way to do this constituency test is with cleft sentences. So, for example, it was David and Maria who broke the window. Okay. Now, this position here, David and Maria, that's called the focus position. Okay. And the thing that occupies the focus position is going to be a constituent. If you're testing a constituent and it cannot occupy the focus position, then it's not a constituent. Okay, or I should say, if you're testing a string of words to see if that string of words is a constituent, and that string of words cannot occupy the cleft sentence the focus position of the cleft sentence grammatically, then it's not a constituent. Let's check this one out. It was a book that Kenya wrote. So, in that case, we could say that a book is a constituent because it can occupy it. It was a book with a green cover that Kenya wrote. So again, that's another example of a constituent. Okay, so let's have a look at the focus position. So is the place between was, were, or is, or any other form of be, and that, or who, or whatever. Okay, so if you can go into focus position, it's a constituent. If in focus position it is ungrammatical, it is not a constituent. So we need to do some constituency tests. So let's have a look at this. Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in the countryside. It was blah 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 that Lakshmi bought. So let's find this. It was. Let's test this. I want to see if this is a constituent. So I need to do a constituency test. Well, I can place it here, and let's see the result that I have. It says, "It was a beautiful house in the countryside that Lakshmi bought," and that sentence is okay to me. So I can say, well, that's a constituent. Okay. Let's try this one then. It was a beautiful house in December that Lakshmi bought. All right. It was a beautiful house in December that Lakshmi bought. Now, to me, that seems ungrammatical. So, what we can say, oh, excuse me, what we can say is that a beautiful house in the countryside is a constituent. But a beautiful house in December is not a constituent. Okay, and these facts need to be reflected in our tree. Okay, so here we have Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in December. So a beautiful house and in December are not under one node of our tree. They're not kind of under one node that is exclusive to a beautiful house and in December. However, bought a beautiful house, that is one constituent because it's under one node. Bought is also a constituent. So I'll talk about this constituency test in another video, but you could say it's what we call the did so to test. For example, Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in December, and I don't know, and Sam did so too. Now, what I'm doing there is I'm testing all of that. That's testing this level node. Did so too, o sea, ¿qué fue lo que también hizo? Pues comprar una casa bonita en diciembre. All right. Now, let's change it. Let's test this node. We could say, Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in December, and Mario did so too in April. Now, that's another great test to see if this is a constituent. So, bought a beautiful house is a constituent. Bought a beautiful house in December is also a constituent. All right. A beautiful house is, of course, a constituent. So, Lakshmi bought one in December, and then one replaces a beautiful house. Bought one in December. Okay. So, if what we can see is that this from here down is a constituent. From here down, it's a constituent. From here down, it's a constituent. From here down, it's a constituent. What's not a constituent is a beautiful house in December. Okay, because there's no node that reflects that this string of words, a beautiful house in December, is all working as one unit without bought. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's have a look at this one then. Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in the countryside. Okay. So now we've got Lakshmi bought, well, what did she buy? A beautiful house in the countryside. And that's all one constituent, because you could say Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in the countryside, but Oscar didn't buy one. and one replaces a beautiful house in the countryside, so therefore we could say it's a constituent. All right. Now look at this one. I'd like. Let me just zoom out. Aha, cool. Let me just make that a little bit closer there. Aha. Now, Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in the countryside, and Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in the countryside. If you can hear that the intonation's a little bit different, listen. Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in the countryside. Nos da a entender que esa casa se encuentra en the countryside. Sin embargo, Lakshmi bought a beautiful house in the countryside. Podría ser o no que la casa se encuentre en el countryside, pero la compra, el trámite de la compra de la casa se realizó in the countryside. So, because of that fact, the way these two trees, even though they're the same words, they can actually be structured differently. And the way they're structured reflects different readings. So this says, Lakshmi bought a house, and that house was beautiful, and that house was in the countryside. And this one says, Lakshmi bought a beautiful house. The purchase of the house happened in the countryside. Is the house in the countryside? Who knows? Maybe she bought a house in the city, in the countryside. Es decir, hizo la compra de una casa de ciudad, una casa que está en la ciudad. Realizó esa compra in the countryside. Okay? I hope that's not too confusing, guys, but this is kind of like where we get into like the true meaning of syntactic structure in linguistics. Okay? Well, I hope that information helps.